Don't Vote Labour Again, Episode 63.
Dover and Deal, the gateway to our great country, where patriotism begins.
We've stood strong against invaders and threats for centuries, from Napoleon to the Nazis.
Leading with British values.
Moral courage, decency, as a true statesman.
To try and counter reform, Labour have been trying to sound like hard men on immigration.
Ooh, you're hard.
At first, they channeled their inner Nick Griffins by going on about the Tory open borders experiment, which Blair had started, but never mind that. Next up came the "gosh, look how many illegal immigrants we're deporting" line, parroted by the same politicians who had held up refugees welcome signs and petitioned the Tory government to cancel deportation flights. See their candidate in Runcorn for the kind of brazen volte faces we're talking about. The latest figure slapped on this has been the 24,000 in the 9 months in which Labour has been in government. 24,103 to be exact. It's very hard, as ever, to verify whether the figure has been massaged, like a Labour minister on a free holiday. What we do know is that within the returns of people not authorised to be in the country, there is always a large contingent of voluntary returns. These are people who have simply given themselves up and left on their own accord, with or without a £3,000 sweetener courtesy of the British taxpayer. The rest are enforced returns or deportations, ones physically put on a plane and escorted back home. This includes both illegal immigrants, or overstayers, and legal migrants that have committed crimes. It tends to be a much smaller number, partly because the ECHR and our own courts make it so difficult. According to a Home Office statement on March the 31st, from the 24,103 who have been returned by Labour, only 6,339, 26%, were enforced returns. Within this, 3,594, 57%, were foreign criminals. The government say that there were 5,244 enforced returns for the same period the year before, under Sunak, marking an increase of 21%. From the total returns, 6,781, 28%, were apparently asylum-related. If we imagine the 17,764 voluntary returns were all paid £3,000 to leave, which is most likely not the case, that means we would have paid out £53.3 million. If only half that were paid, it's still 27 million. Some will call that money well spent if it gets rid of the unwanted guests. Doing some research into the figures under various governments, I have found that if the data is true, Starmer does rank highly in both total returns and enforced deportations. If you make a monthly average, dividing by the 9 months, his government has overseen 2,678 returns per month, of which 704 were deportations. However, Starmer is not massively more prolific than Sunak, who oversaw 45,000 returns and 7,904 deportations in his whole tenure. If you turn these into a monthly average, these make 2,250 and 395 respectively. We should note also that their number of deportation flights were on par. Starmer's 9 months saw 46 flights, as did the last 9 months of Sunak. Johnson performed around 50,000 returns and 5,800 deportations, giving averages of 1,351 and 156. May returned around 45,000, of which 10,000 were enforced, making her averages 1,250 and 277. Cameron saw off about 70,000, including 50,000 forced returns, meaning monthly rates of 945 and 675. Brown, meanwhile, returned around 40,000, of which half were enforced, giving averages of 1,176 and 588. Blair sent back about 70,000 in total, including 50,000 deportations. This makes respective averages of 578 and 413. Using this method, then, Starmer is so far winning on both total returns and deportations, beating 7 governments before him. Starmer's average up until now marks a 19% increase from Sunak, significant but not outstanding. It's not really fair to compare Starmer's record to Johnson and the PMs beforehand, because the numbers of asylum claimants were not so high. They peaked under Sunak. Nonetheless, Starmer's current average is much larger than any of theirs. We have to admit this. However, something that blows his tough guy posturing out of the water is that while he's been delivering 24,000 returns, 29,439 migrants that we know about have crossed the English Channel. They are coming in faster than he can get them out. The asylum-related returns he's reported, 6,781, only make up 23% of the dinghy interlopers. Consider also that there are reckoned to be around 1 million illegal immigrants living in the UK. It has been suggested by a Thames Water report, measuring the sewage, that 1 in 12 people in London are not authorised to be there. That isn't actually that implausible to anyone who's walked around the capital lately. Poor old Sir Sausage has only sent back 2.4% of the million illegals. That's not even taking into account legal migration, which will be at least another million this year alone. Starmer's actions are a drop in the ocean, just like the actions of every government since the invention of cheap jet travel. It is worth remembering that in common with these previous governments, Starmer has no intention of truly getting to grips with the problem. Even reform, which he is emulating and which is driving him to this pathetic display, will not commit to deporting that illegal million.
Do you support deporting all of those people?
It's impossible to do. Literally impossible to do.
But is it your ambition?
No.
These people need to go, don't they? And by saying that you don't support mass deportations...
If I say I support mass deportations, that's all anybody will talk about for the next 20 years. So it's pointless even going there.
Starmer thinks that all he has to do is have slightly less immigration than previous governments, and the horrible reactionary British public will be satisfied enough to vote for him. He's wrong. He may be rudely rejected come 2029. We should also consider how this play acting is affecting Starmer's base. Along with his welfare cuts, the rhetoric on immigration, legal or illegal, is alienating the left of Labour. Only the Blairites and the most mercenary Labour supporters are in favour of this positioning. The Labour left are wrong, of course, to oppose border control and migration limits. They are also very out of touch, but from a strategic point of view, it is a rift within the party, and thus a weakness that will only get worse. Their votes may be transferred to the Greens. Similarly, Muslim left-wing voters may also disapprove of Starmer's angle, fearing discrimination or the stemming of the Islamist cause. Their votes, as is already happening to a significant degree, will leak to Muslim independence. Meanwhile, the right or the post-liberal left will not, hopefully, be taken in by Starmer's obvious triangulation. The receipts are available from the short-term past. Labour opposing any measures to prevent immigration or the Channel crossings. Labour sucking up to supposed refugees and momentum. Starmer requesting a deportation flight be delayed. Labour MPs demanding a flight be stopped that contained a man who later murdered someone. Labour MPs, including Rayner, supporting mobs that interfere with immigration raids. Blair was able to conceal and overcome what came before him, but Starmer is not. What we must do is scrutinise every claim Starmer makes, look beyond the spin and the headlines, and examine the data. What isn't he saying? What isn't he doing? We must remind people of what his MPs were saying 5 minutes ago, that it was Labour who first elevated immigration to these ruinous numbers. We simply cannot let him get away with this. These are from my article series Don't Vote Labour Again, published on my Substack, link in description. I usually split each subject into smaller episodes. In the description, you will find links to the other episodes. You can also check out my playlist to find every single one. Please support me in my work by subscribing to this channel, subscribing free to my Substack, and by liking and sharing. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon as we plumb the depths of this dreadful government.